I'm finding that the statute in section, I think it's House Bill 5, is unconstitutional, and in that it violates the privacy provision of the Florida Constitution and does not meet the standards of the 3 Florida Supreme Court cases that have interpreted the effect of that constitutional provision and abortion in Florida. So I will be entering a temporary injunction. It will be a statewide temporary injunction. Will only be effective when I sign an order, so it will be not today.
Just to tail end that, that's Florida Circuit Judge John Cooper. He's not doing it today, but as you heard there, he is blocking Florida's 15-week abortion ban that's coming, that triggered right in after the overturning of Roe v. Wade happened. So the fight continues. We're going to get into his reasonings behind it, and also what maybe some pushback may be and what they don't think is the reality with Florida's law. But I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's go to details. Cooper issued the statewide temporary injunction that will only be effective once he signs an order, which, as you heard at the end that I mentioned, will not be today, which I think was earlier this week. It's not clear whether he will sign the order before the law goes into effect today, Friday, July 1st. But the temporary injunction will block the ban from taking effect before our next hearing is set. So not just yet, but hopefully maybe soon, and so what, and possibility. Here's some of his thoughts behind this. Oh, first off, this is the ban that he's blocking. This 15-week abortion restriction was extremely contentious, with no exceptions for pregnancies caused by rape, incest, or human trafficking. Sounds familiar from other states. It allowed, which is really fast, come back. We can come back to this graphic in a second, which is, again, I talked earlier about Philip Gunn. That's why you can ask anytime any of these Republicans talk about what their rules and their laws are and the things, these trigger bans that come in, ask them, so do you believe like Philip Gunn believes that, yeah, sure, rape and incest is totally fine, go forward. Ask them, because they're all on the same page here. So continuing on, it allowed exceptions only if the mother was at risk of serious injury or death, or if the fetus had a fatal abnormality. The law made it a crime to provide an abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy and threatened physicians with a 5-year prison sentence and a $10,000 fine. So under the current law, Florida allows abortions through the first trimester or up to 24 weeks. The restriction was modeled after a 15-week abortion ban passed in 2018 in Mississippi, that other state, which was at the center of the Supreme Court case that was the impetus behind the fall of Roe. Again, I mentioned that other state as Mississippi because that's where Philip Gunn is. Make him famous. Many organizations that support this abortion, actually filed a suit claiming that this law violated the Constitution. That's the basis for this now judge flipping this. Florida healthcare providers filed this lawsuit on June 1st, arguing that the law goes against Florida's state constitution. Several organizations that support abortion rights, including the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU of Florida, and the Center for Reproductive Rights and Planned Parenthood, filed this suit. Here's that provision that they're talking about. Florida passed into its constitution an explicit right to privacy that is not contained in the US Constitution. The Florida Supreme Court has determined it, in its words, Florida's privacy provision is clearly implicated in a woman's decision of whether or not to continue her pregnancy. And in other words, on the issue of abortion, the Florida Supreme Court has decided that women have a privacy under the state constitution to not have that right impacted up to 24 weeks at least, is what this judge, John Cooper, said. Rick.
Yes, so I know it's cliche, okay? And I know that you're sick of hearing it, and trust, I am sick of saying it, and I'm sick of hearing it too. But I hate to say it, elections do matter, because judges are decided by those that you put in office. It's very important. So I know that we usually talk about like, well, politicians, blah, blah, blah. Judges are also essentially on the ballot too. So I'm glad that you brought up the ACLU. They've obviously done tremendous work. So have Planned Parenthood. Just some of the numbers. According to the CDC in 2019, this is 2% of roughly 72,000 abortions reported in Florida were after 15 weeks. It just feels like continuously they are taking up the wrong fights, Republicans are, because they are winning issues. These are not important issues. It's because their one piece of text that they hold up as a defense mechanism at every single turn to justify being terrible people is the crux, and they know that it's a winning issue. Do I believe that Ron DeSantis loves doing this? No. Do I believe he has a lust for power? Yes. That's what I think this comes down to. There was Cecilia Grande, an OBGYN in Miami, who said, we have legislators giving these, putting these images of fetuses with heartbeats, and they don't have a heart. They have something very rudimentary. So we cannot tell about sensory levels in fetuses that are not viable. They just don't get it.
But
they intentionally don't get it. They're anti-science. They don't care.
You brought up science. Kristi Noem literally will go on shows, nationally broadcast shows, and say, I would tell them to look at the science, as if that supports her point.
Okay, but then if there's a follow-up, she would pivot to something else. Because they just don't have an answer. The facts are not on their side in this case.